everyone, it's Michelle Caruana from Play Cafe Academy and also owner of Climbing Vines Cafe and Play. And in today's video, I want to share with you something that I've been putting off, and I've been meaning to record this video for a long time. And in today's video, I'm going to talk about the biggest mistake that I've made as an indoor playground owner that has really affected my profitability every single month since we opened. So definitely stay tuned throughout this video. I am going to help you avoid that same mistake. But before we get started, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to this channel. It helps so much, and I love when you guys comment on my videos. I answer every single comment. So if you have any questions about anything I talk about today or in a previous video, feel free to comment. I personally respond to all of them. So I put out a new video every week, and subscribing and turning notifications on for my channel, that little bell that you see, is gonna be the best way to make sure that you don't miss anything, because I have a ton of really great topics coming up. So back to today's topic. I wanna share with you guys, this is gonna be a little bit more unscripted, so bear with me, but I really wanna talk you guys through the mistake that I made so that I can, again, help you guys avoid the mistake, because that is the whole point of this channel and my Play Cafe Academy program. So the biggest mistake that I made has to do with overhead costs, and more specifically, it has to do with the lease that we signed. So we signed a lease that, and this is in no way against our landlord or anything like that. It was 100% my responsibility as a business owner to really go through that lease with a fine-tooth comb and make sure it was something that we could afford. However, just due to a lot of the things that came up that I didn't necessarily expect, a lot of unforeseen costs, a lot of maintenance costs, a lot more build out than I expected, it ended up being something that was very difficult for us to afford. Now, we are still able to be profitable and we are still able to get past it. However, the lease that we signed was very, very expensive. And if you're in Play Cafe Academy, if you're a member, you know exactly how much it is, and you know exactly what our lease looks like, exactly what the terms are. But if you're not, just suffice it to say that it's very expensive. And it's a lot more expensive than it needed to be. And again, this is not saying that it was, that our landlord tried to scheme us or get more money out of us than they deserved, because it's an absolutely beautiful location and they absolutely deserve what they're asking for. However, just the style of our business is we didn't really need to spend all of that money on our lease. And let me tell you why. So one of the biggest reasons that our lease is so expensive is because we are on a main road. So if you guys are familiar with the Rochester area, we're in Victor, so we're right off the New York State Thruway. We are on Route 96, which is a extremely busy area. I'm watching hundreds of cars go by as I record this video, and the street visibility is insane. So we are essentially paying for street visibility. And when I was getting started and when I was putting my business plan together, I thought that street visibility was really going to be essential to our success. And I was convinced that if we could just get on Route 96 in Victor, the area has a ton of new families. The area is just bustling with young children and young parents. So I was, again, absolutely convinced that if we were on Route 96 and we had a really colorful, bright sign, that it would be easy for us to reach parents. And while I do think street visibility is definitely a nice to have, it has in no way played any part in our success. And I'm gonna tell you again why. So it's 2019 at the time of this recording, and it's the age of information. So if you're a parent or if you're someone that's into technology, which I'm assuming you are because you're watching this video, even just a little bit, you know how to function a computer, you know how to Google search, you know how to look on YouTube. People are going to find your business whether or not street visibility is a factor. So a lot of our competitors are actually able to enjoy a lot cheaper rent because they are completely off the beaten path. Yes, they are missing out on the cars that are driving by, but honestly, I really can confidently say, now that we have a second location that doesn't have as much street visibility, I can definitely say with certainty now that street visibility does not matter for this type of business. Because, again, if you're a parent, you know that as you're driving by a business, you don't necessarily just see something on the side of the road and say, oh, I'm gonna park my car, I'm gonna get my kids out, I'm going to stop whatever we were going to do, and I'm going to just randomly stop and visit this business and check it out. That doesn't really happen. You know, as a parent, especially as a parent with young children, you plan ahead. You search Facebook groups, you search Google, you see maybe an advertisement on Facebook or Instagram, you follow them on social media, you plan your visits ahead of time, and you're not necessarily driving by a location and retaining that information and saying, oh, I'm either gonna stop by right now or I'm gonna check out what this business is about at a later time. It doesn't really happen with podcasts, radio, with your kids in the back seat. It's really hard to see a business and then again retain that information and remember to look it up when you get home. So again, street visibility is definitely great for businesses. However, in this case, for this specific business, it is not going to be worth the money that you are going to have to spend on your lease. So we probably pay about a $2,000 premium per month just to be on Route 96. And again, I'm not going to say that it hasn't done anything for our business because I'm sure it has, but it definitely isn't $2,000 a month worth it for our business. If we had that extra money, if we had chosen a location off the beaten path a little bit, not on Route 96, we probably could have went a little bit bigger. We probably could, have that extra money in our pockets to reinvest in our business or get new toys or get maybe a different climbing structure or something like that, or we could use it as profit and take it as a paycheck as owners. But we don't, because we are on a main street and we chose to, again, factor in street visibility into the importance of our business, and that just hasn't panned out to be the case. And I want to urge you as the potential owner or prospective owner of an indoor playground or really any family entertainment business, I want to urge you to not necessarily consider street visibility as a factor. Because again, people are going to be looking you up in other ways. They're not going to just be driving by and randomly deciding to visit. So operating with a really expensive lease is honestly kind of a nightmare. So it's almost like operating with your back against the wall because you have a lot less freedom to try out new initiatives. You have a lot less wiggle room to make mistakes. So every single time I want to try something new, or I want to back off on events, or I want to try a different way to do summer camps, I really have less options. And again, I have less wiggle room because I know that check has to be written every single month without exception. And again, it just gives me a little bit less room for failure as a business owner. And in the Play Cafe indoor playground business, it's all about innovation. It's all about trying new things. It's all about keeping with the parenting trends. So I would love to have a lot more wiggle room. I would love to have a lot more freedom to, have a bad month. But unfortunately, I don't really have that freedom. So again, just think about that. Try to sign the most affordable lease possible. And again, don't think that being off the beaten path is going to hurt your traffic at all, because again, that $2,000 a month or however much you would be spending to be more visible could be much better spent elsewhere. You can invest in Google AdWords, you can invest in Facebook and Instagram ads, or again, you can just use it as profit because people are going to be finding you. And again, our second location has a lot less street visibility. It's in a plaza. You can't really see it from the street, and they have definitely not had a problem getting the word out there. And I really don't think it's all related to the fact that it's our second location, because it is a completely different area. It's about 35 miles away, different demographic, different ideal customer. So again, I can now say with certainty that street visibility is definitely not the most important thing in this business, and people are going to find you anyways, and you can spend that money that you would be spending on your lease elsewhere. It's going to be much more effective. And the most important thing I want to say about signing a lease is to make sure you hire a lawyer to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. We did that, and I still was convinced that spending a lot of extra money in rent was going to make a big difference in terms of traffic, and it hasn't. So again, something that I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I just don't want to sign off without saying is our lease is one number, but make sure that you are also asking your lawyer to explain to you about the kind of lease that you're signing. So is it a triple net? Is it a gross lease? What's included, is maintenance included? Are you going to have to cover snow removal and grass cutting and things like that? How much is going to be factored? How much of your build out is going to be factored in your lease? All of that is very, very important. So even though you know what your cost per square footage is, even if you know what your lease is going to be monthly, there are going to be a lot of costs that are going to add up very, very quickly if you don't do enough research ahead of time, and if you don't have somebody on your side really letting you know exactly what those costs are so that you can go ahead and call and estimate how much you're going to be spending for all of those, I guess, unforeseen costs. They really shouldn't be unforeseen costs because it should be outlined pretty clearly. However, most commercial lease agreements are about 30 to 50 pages, so it's definitely easy to miss something. So don't try to go it alone. Don't try to use a real estate broker as your lawyer, because they're not going to be trained to really find those nuances and help make sure that you're protecting yourself and that you know exactly what you're going to be paying each month, not just to your landlord, but to all of the other vendors that you're going to need to engage to make sure that you're living up to your lease terms and you're not going to end up in court with your landlord over something like snow removal or adjustment costs or anything like that. So the biggest mistake that I definitely have made on this journey is signing a lease that was much too expensive. Again, most importantly, it's taken away a lot of my freedom as a business owner to make mistakes and try new things, and I don't want to see that for you. So make sure, if you're in Play Cafe Academy, you know exactly the kind of lease that you should be signing. You know exactly what you should be looking for in a type of space. You know all of the red flags to look for. You know what not to look at when you're looking at spaces. But if you're not, then feel free to, again, subscribe to this channel or join us in Play Cafe Academy. It's at the time of this recording, enrollment is currently closed. But if you go to playcafeacademy.com, you can either hop on the wait list and be one of the newest members to open. It's currently, again, full, but when I open new spots, it's going to be in October 2019. But again, if you're watching this video at a later date, it might be open, might be closed, I'm not sure, but you can either get on the wait list or join us over at playcafeacademy.com. And if you're not quite ready to make that jump yet, you can download my free ebook. I'll link to it in the description of this video, or you can take my absolutely free class all about getting your indoor playground business funded, and that is at openandindoorplayground.com. So I will see you guys next week.